explain it for the record here for our audience is that you're not actually talking about broken windows, but instead of the broken window theory. Is that right?
No. So what I'm referring to is, for example, if we have an emotionally charged crowd that is marching and protesting and going through the city, and somebody breaks a window in that crowd, we are not going to rush in to arrest them right away for that event because it has a high volatility to escalate the crowd to more violence or cause injury to the people that are going to make the arrest. We will document, we will investigate, and we will lay charges as applicable for that broken window. It just won't be an immediate action.
Do you mean an actual broken window? Because what you're just defining right there does sound similar to broken window theory, where there's...
No, broken window theory says if you continue to ignore the broken windows, that nobody will care anymore.
So are you talking about an actual broken window?
No, you're referring to broken window theory. That's not applicable in this case. Broken window theory is is not the same theory as this. This is about you timing your investigation and your charges of when you actually make an arrest. There is no requirement for us to immediately rush in to arrest somebody who breaks a window or spray paint something. That's something that can be investigated, follow up, and the applicable charges can be laid after the fact. Now, if somebody were to pull a knife, we are going into that crowd and that person will be arrested because we have a responsibility to ensure public safety.
Right. So just to be clear, you're not talking about actual broken windows.
No.
Thank you, Inspector. From February 10th, you switched from operation level to tactical level, correct?
That was my personal interpretation, yes.
And do you agree that tactical level means managing day-to-day tactical operations?
Yes.
Last week, Mayor Watson testified that a senior OPS official was assigned to be on the ground on Wellington to coordinate the implementation of the February 12th deal with the truckers. Do you know who was that OPS officer assigned to coordinate the deal on the ground, particularly on February 14th?
I believe it was Superintendent Drummond was assigned to do the follow-up with respect to the negotiations.
Is it correct that Kelly Cochran is the coordinator of emergency management and business continuity for the City of Ottawa?
I know she works in that office, yes.
Do you recall communicating with Kelly Cochran on February 18th, 2022?
She was in the NCRCC almost on a daily basis, so.
And do you recall Cochran referring to the arrested protesters as detainees?
No.
Do you recall what the weather was like on February 18th, 2022?
The first day of the arrest?
That's correct.
It was cold.
Would you agree that it was -24 with a wind chill thereabouts?
It was cold because I actually remember watching the video of them lining them up and the officers giving up their own personal hand warmers to the people waiting in line to be processed on the bus.
Would you agree that if one was inadequately dressed and didn't have those hand warmers and were exposed to the cold element, one would be at risk from getting cold injuries such as hypothermia, frostnip, or frostbite?
There is a risk.
You're familiar with the POU tactical plan, which is a sub-plan of the February 17th plan that was referred to earlier today. Is that correct?
I'm aware of the plan. I did not see it.
Did you not see any of the plans then?
So at that point, the integrated command and planning group were planning and coordinating. And my focus was on getting our officers through the next 3 hours or the 12 hours that they were working under my command. Those actual operations would planned and coordinated by a separate group.
Mm-hmm. But those plans would have been shared with you, the mission, the objectives.
The concept of operations, but not the minutiae or the details.
That being said, would you agree that there's nothing that you heard of that was in those operation plans, including the tactical plan, that after police arrested protesters and told them that they were not being charged, that the police were permitted to drive protesters outside of the city core in the dead of winter without access to shelter or transportation or telecommunications?
I know nothing of that. I can't speak to it.
On February, I have one.
You're out of time at the moment.
Can I ask one final question, please?
Go ahead.
Thank you. On February 18th, do you remember Kelly Cochran raising the issue to you on how protesters, or as she described, detainees, would actually leave after being arrested and transported? And you replied, well, they will find a way to leave.
Don't recall.
Thank you, Inspector Lucas, and for your service. That's all my questions. And thank you for the additional time, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you. Next,